Eastern Standard Time.
The death penalty for Luigi Mangione in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mangione is being charged with federal crimes in connection to Thompson's killing just outside of a hotel here in Midtown Manhattan back in December. He also faces state criminal charges.
Party. Why I like the new party? Number one, it's a group of people that's on a panel. We all have differences, but we all basically still come together at the end of the day. The new party for me is about unity. The new party for me is about educating people to the truth, letting people know what's been going on in our country. With that being said, shout out to the new party, man. We're going to keep it going with y'all.
Welcome to the new party. I'm Nora Christine.
I'm Gray Mars.
I'm Skeptic.
Jerem.
Enzo Nuccio.
And today on the new party, we will be discussing a number of topics tonight. As you guys may or may not have seen, Cory Booker is still filibustering in the Congress as we speak. Let's see if he'll be going at the end of the call. I'm curious if he'll still be going. But the first topic of the night is about Luigi Mangione. Enzo, I know in our private talks, you said you're passionate about it. Can you let everybody know about who he is and what your thoughts are?
So, Mr. Luigi, come on, I got to stick up for him. He's one of my Italian brothers. So, if anything, we didn't see nothing. He did nothing. I know nothing. He was accused of murdering Brian Thompson, if I got his last name correctly, the CEO of United Healthcare, back in December of 24. Honestly, like I said before to you in our private talks, I do not think he did it. It's just a little weird on how it all happened, how we only get like a little bit of a picture of his, just pretty much his jawbone, and they connected to this guy who in my eyes looks nothing like the dude we seen the picture of. So I don't know. I'm going the conspiracy theory route. He's just the fall guy of who really did it, who was just trying to make a statement against the healthcare industry.
Jay, what's your thoughts on the Luigi? Well, first of all, we're going to play the next clip as well, but isn't it crazy, Jay, that they're going after a death penalty for one billionaire when there's all sorts of stories that we hear, and I'm going to play it later, where they're unaliving tons of people for hate crimes and all sorts of things, and they don't get the death penalty. What's your thoughts on the direction of this administration and the justice system?
Well, I think it's just this administration. I just think that the trend of the American people is we don't care about billionaires. I mean, when that submarine thing happened, the submarine was full of billionaires. There was no sympathy. There was the opposite. People were making jokes about it immediately. And I think basically just the people, I hate to like say them or they, but just the people that hold a lot of power in this country are seeing a trend that they're maybe even kind of scared that we literally just don't care about them because we realize that this entire time they've never cared about us. So I just think that they're trying to set an example that, especially in New York, a state that I think hasn't has a stay on the death penalty. So I just think the fact that they're willing to just so immediately go straight for the death penalty, they're definitely trying to set an example that, you know, kind of just know your place and don't act out. But that class is untouchable. You know.
Is that what's going on?
Absolutely. I think they are absolutely sending a message. I mean, if we really get down to like the brass tacks, United Healthcare, who he was obviously the CEO representing that company, they only approved less than 30% of the claims. So we can directly tie this company and him as the face, as the CEO, to tens of thousands of deaths from lack of healthcare. So, I mean, at this point in time, I don't know if it's a conspiracy. I don't know. I'm going to come out and say it. I'm glad he's unalived. I think more of things need to happen because we need to scare the status quo, because these people will continuously try to take advantage of us. And at the end of the day, United Healthcare and this man had blood on his hands regardless, because if he was an upstanding citizen, he would not have worked for United Healthcare, and he would not have been complicit to tens of thousands of Americans being unalived through lack of healthcare that they're actually paying for through their insurance. So I am with Jay. I mean, I'm one of those people that laughed. When they were in the ocean in the submarine with a PS2 controller, I laughed at that, and I'm laughing now.
I think it was the Xbox controller, let's be fair.
I was laughing then. I'm still laughing now. I have zero sympathy for him or his family at all whatsoever.
Also, I'm pretty sure that in the United States is only like Western or like industrial nation on earth where the doctor can say you need this, and somebody with an admin degree can go like, nah, you don't.
Right. And, these people are spending tens of thousands of dollars in a year. If not, sometimes people don't get sick and they've had insurance for 20 years. Imagine giving United Healthcare 6 figures over the course of like 20 years for the time you have a problem. They're like, nope, sorry, too bad for you, bud.
So without saying what I do, I've been in rooms where these decisions are made, and to believe it or not, it's a lot that goes into it. It is unfortunate sometimes when decisions have to be made, but it's what your policy allows. Like, and I'm not trying to be harsh, but like there are rules and regulations. And like I had a recent issue with my house, and they didn't cover everything, and I'm just like, well, that is what it is. I have that endorsement or whatever you call it, so I can't. It is what it. I mean, that's my thoughts on it. I don't think anyone should be killed because even though he's the CEO, he's still the front man. But I digress. Skeptical, what's your thoughts? Is his $1 billionaire body self worth more than other people getting unalived every day in America?
I would say no. I think all lives are, equally valuable. However, I do agree that they're going to make an example out of him because, we have to set a precedent that we are not going to allow Americans to be killing CEOs. So I don't necessarily think that billionaires are the boogeyman. I know a lot of, wealthy people that are good people, and they do, good things for their community, and they, help donate thousands of dollars to help communities. So I don't necessarily think that they're evil per se, but I do think that we have created a disparity amongst classes where the wealthiest have become very much wealthier than the lower income people in America, which I think is more of an economic issue than I would say that makes billionaires evil, So
Gray, what's your thoughts? Are you hoping to be a billionaire one day and they get something ever happens, they throw the book at that person?
I'm basically gonna say piggyback off what Skeptic said. I mean, like, yeah, you can go delete somebody, but you do have to think about the victim's family. Like, they're gonna be there if he is executed, standing there asking him in the courtroom if he really did it. I don't know if he did it or not, so we should let him go through due process, whether he's innocent or whether he's guilty. And like, people, just because they have money, we shouldn't necessarily want to unalive them. I mean, President Trump almost got deleted. So, I mean, like, I think we should just let the courts work the way the system should work.
Well, it's interesting. We've had an interesting week. This comes out that they're seeking the death penalty, but just a few days ago, it also came out that the killer of the El Paso Walmart shooting is getting nothing. Well, I don't want to say nothing, but he's definitely not getting the death penalty. Let's watch the plea deal.
Fox, I'm your host, Christina Evans. Again, as we promised before that 2-minute break that we took, we're going to be keeping it there in Texas, talking about another major headline. You might remember this story. It happened back in 2019, devastating, when the gunman, he killed 23 people in a racist attack at a Texas Walmart. We do know that, according to the Associated Press, he attacked Hispanic shoppers there at a Walmart near the U.S.-Mexico border back in 2019. And new information is coming out about his case. It has now been put on the table, a plea deal underneath this offer that was announced today. He would avoid the death penalty under the law. This is abruptly ending years of efforts by prosecutors to see that he face execution by lethal injection. El Paso County District Attorney James Montoya said during a news conference that this decision there and the prosecution of this gunman who drove across the state for one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history and posted racist messages before opening fire was driven by a majority of victims' relatives who wanted to see this case go behind him. To talk more about this update and where the case is now heading, I want to bring into the conversation Texas-based attorney Trey Gober. Trey, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. Again, this is a story that rocked so many people's world when it happened back in 2019, and we've been continuing to follow it as we're getting these updates. What were first your thoughts on that plea deal being put on the table? Is this customary in a case that involves the murder and a mass shooting of so many people, again, also leaving 22 others injured as well?
Well, I think my thoughts are the same as the thoughts of many of us. Disappointment. A lot of us wanted to see the ultimate penalty for the ultimate crime. Can't think of many crimes much worse than this. And certainly, if the death penalty is ever appropriate, it should be inappropriate in a case like this. That's certainly the thoughts that first hit me. But at the same time, when you look at this district attorney's reasoning behind it and the fact that the district attorney is taking into consideration the wishes of the families to get this put behind them so that they can have closure, absolutely, it's something we can support. At the end of the day, the law requires and allows for prosecutorial discretion to take into account a variety of considerations, and certainly consideration and deference to the wishes of the majority of the victims' families should be.
So, Skeptic, what's your thoughts on that story and the fact that they're going to do a plea deal for this guy versus with Luigi, they're not even trying to like work anything out. They're just saying death penalty without even a trial or anything.
So I want to say that from what I gather, the facts that he was just saying a while ago, maybe the families didn't want to go through the scrutiny of going through a trial, right? Which would then, put the decision in the hands of the family. So I guess that does play a role as far as what they're going to determine for that, person who did the shooting. So I guess it makes a little bit more sense. Like I was finding it just senseless, like how does this happen in our justice system? So that makes a little bit more sense, but still I do think that he should have been held to, higher consequences. So that's crazy. The fact that he unalived so many people and he's getting off with this is crazy to me. But I do believe there is a lot of inequality in our government. So, I believe it.
Enzo, what's your thoughts?
So when it comes to mass unalivings, school unalivings, anything like that, I don't think there even should be a trial. I think it literally should just be straight up execution for anybody like that. I have no doubt you want to set an example in the example of Luigi. You should absolutely do it for that, because I'm not gonna sit here and say maybe by doing that it will stop mass unalivings on the scale that what they are, but it absolutely will show zero tolerance for it, and I'm all for that, because when it comes down to anything like that, I think eye for an eye. So they should be lined up by firing squad, and that's how they should be executed. Not even lethal injection. It's too weak.
Too what's the word? Like kind.
Yeah, it's too kind for somebody like that.
Too kind. Gray, what's your thoughts? Do you think that this is a double standard, or do you agree with Skeptic that the families didn't want that?
Well, with the rule of law, I'm not a lawyer, but there could be mitigating circumstances. This guy could have mental health issues. He could have been watching Fox News every day, so it made his brain say, "I need to go do this." He
Fox
could
News,
have
huh?
had. We don't know his defense. He could have been
That is
like,
probably what happened then.
whatever happened to him made him. His parents were like this. It might be something that made it where they said, "Well, it's not really his fault." So, like, I know the court system isn't perfect, but that's why you can have so many appeals and so many experts. But I would have to like know what his defense was to say like what should have really happened.
Mm. How do you defend that? Mia, how would you defend that?
I personally couldn't defend it because I think he deserves the death penalty. I think this is a massive miscarriage of justice for
Me
the
too.
50 some odd people. Because, I mean, he obviously unalived the 23, plus they said 22 plus were also injured. So we're talking about
Mhm.
50 people. Like, that's a massive scale. I mean, that's insane. And he just is going to be what he's going to live off our tax dollars down in, I don't live in Texas, not my tax dollars, but he's going to live off Texans tax dollars
If
now.
he's in federal prison, he would be.
No, he's in federal. It's our tax dollar. You got it
man,
right. It's
I don't
Fed.
even want that.
Fed. It's a Fed crime.
So he's
Yeah.
going to live off of our tax
Well,
dollars after
yeah.
doing that. No. And you know what? I take solace in the fact that he's not going to make it in prison unless he's in solitary confinement. So that's
Nope.
all I get.
The Mexican gangs are going to get to him.
That's all I
They're
get.
going to hear how he unalived some Mexican people, and who knows? Maybe somebody on the outside going to know somebody who knows somebody. Throw them $100 on their commissary, and they'll take care of it. Sorry,
Absolutely.
that's what happened to Dahmer.
Yeah, those COs are absolutely going to drop breadcrumbs to the fellow inmates for sure. Like, I know I know a bunch of COs in my life, and they be like, they be vengeful just to screw people over. So, I mean, it's whatever. Either way, he's not going to be living very long once he makes it. So, it is what it is.
Jay, is he going to be living very long? What's your thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if he goes to a place like Florence in Colorado, he'll never interact with another human being for the rest of his life. But as far as what Gray said, it's not as black and white as he was watching Fox News, but obviously he was radicalized to target this specific group, and that does take time to build up to that. They say, when a serial unaliver unalives their first victim, it takes years. And the second one takes months, and the last one takes days. So you have to build up to be radicalized to that extreme to want to do that. And I think it's not a soft stance on mass unalivings. I think they're taking a soft stance on radicalization.
True.
Is what the bigger issue is.
I think that's fair.
And just especially in a place like, and my question is too, what did he plead down to? Because it's not like he can plead down to like manslaughter. So what was the plea? Just it's not he can plead. What was he gonna do? Plead not guilty and just not like what was the deal? Just plead guilty, and then you won't be
just murder. Yeah, right. So to avoid a speedy trial or a trial period, they're just going to sentence him. So he's pleading. So I guess whatever they negotiate, they said, "Hey, look, you want us to avoid a trial to defend our client, then take the death penalty off," which is probably the conversation that was done.
Okay.
Well, they said what Skeptic was saying. They said the families didn't want to go through a trial. So that's
my question is, what would the trial be? It's not like he was going to be found not guilty. Would the trial
well, they show the body. Have you ever been a juror before?
My question is, would the trial just have gone? The trial obviously wouldn't have been guilty, not guilty. It would have been penalty or no penalty.
No, it would have been guilty, not guilty, because he has a right as a United States citizen to defend himself. So they would have had to show those pictures of those bodies, body cam footage, video, and I don't blame those families. I wouldn't want that to be seen. And a trial is very emotional. It's a lot that goes into it. I was a juror in January a year ago, and it's a lot that goes into it. And you see everything. You see all the gruesome pictures.
Yeah,
I get that, but if he's like basically dead to rights, what would
he could have pled insanity? He could have pled.
Okay, that makes sense. That's what I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah, so the prosecution, 90% of cases don't go to trial.
Yeah.
And the feds have a 99% conviction rate. So if you go to trial against the feds, it's a 99% chance you're going to the maximum sentence. So most people plead out in most cases.
Yeah.
True. Wow. Well, that was a hard story to begin with, but we're going to move on to something a little bit more lighthearted and funny.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite Democrat, Jasmine Crockett, honey.
Okay.
So we're going to break down what she said because she put her foot in her mouth again, as always. So we'll start with her. I'm going to give her a chance to defend herself. I have some clips of Byron Donalds as well. We're going to remind everyone. So this clip she was on the Breakfast Club. Let's hear what she had to say about Byron Donalds this week.
To put people into office, and that even means some of our skinfolk who definitely are not our kinfolk, such as Byron Donalds, who are going to continue to say that, the fact that you sitting around talking about life was better under Jim Crow, is this because you don't understand history, or literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you? I'm not really sure, what it is.
Well,
but
you
I
couldn't
need
even be married to a white woman under Jim
correct,
Crow.
correct, and it took Joy to call him out. So I'm like, bruh, what are you talking about? What are you saying? He just out here, I feel like they give him his talking points and he's like, yes, massa, I got it.
And my name is Jasmine Crockett, and I'm about to be as ghetto as possible. So, all right, Jay, what do you think about what she said? Because she like the Congress Ghetto Hoe of the Year. So I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay. I just think that I feel like she's catching a little extra heat because she is indeed female and black. I think if she was not, I don't think there'd be that big of a deal, because when you look at what's happened in the past, let's just say since 2016, all the class and all of the rules from how you should carry yourself as a politician are out the window. It's gone.
True.
And I don't know why we still talk about it. The moment, basically, I don't want to say it started with Trump, but he definitely just took the gloves off, and then you go from now, it's over, guys. I don't know why we still act like they're supposed to carry or conduct themselves in a specific way, because it's gone. It's been classless this entire time. And what she's saying is not even that bad. Yeah, I mean,
no, yeah.
I definitely don't think so. So I think she's just catching most heat because she's black and a woman, and that's like the perfect storm in politics. That's all you need to be to get scrutinized. You need to be one of those two things, and if you're both, you're going to catch heat. No matter what you say.
The reason why people are offended, let me give backstory as a black person. They're offended because how dare she talk about Byron Donalds being married to a white woman when most of the Democratic people are married to white partners? Kamala Harris, Ketanji Brown, the one that got elected in, come on, Mia, help me, name out some. A lot of them are married to, and I don't care who you marry, but AOC,
whomever,
they're all
married to white men.
biracial, right? So why call that out? That's the hypocrisy of it. And is it wrong because he's on the right? That's what it is. But Mia, I'll let you go next as the next half black person on the line with me.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't see anything wrong with biracial couples, marriages, anything like that. The United States is a melting pot. The expectation would be that you would broaden your horizons and seek your partners wherever you see fit. I will say that Jay is right. I mean, the reason that we're being a little bit more scrutinizing with her is because she is a black presenting female, 100% facts. We have to call a spade. However, that's because we all grew up being taught that we have to be twice as good. Yeah. So the expectation is that we won't shine a negative light on the black community because we have to be twice as good, twice as fast, twice as smart in order to get even half of what our Caucasian counterparts have. So I feel like that's why we're so much harder on Black women specifically, because they are the leaders in the community. So I think the expectation is when they are in positions of power, they will be a Michelle and not a Jasmine. Because Michelle she's funny, she's well-spoken, she says what she means, but she has never once ever come across as ghetto. She's never swore, she isn't anything. I think the most relaxed I've seen her is she did a podcast recently where she was very relaxed, but obviously she's been not the first lady for quite a few years. And I mean, it's like the pot calling the kettle black, because the majority of Black Democrats are married to white partners. They're married to successful white partners. I mean, like her husband obviously is Black, but everybody else is.
She has a husband?
I believe so. Yes, I believe she has a
I
husband.
don't
I believe
think she has a husband.
TikTok says she has a husband, and I kind of believe them because I've seen it so many times. I'm pretty sure
I
she
will
has.
find it.
But yeah, they're all married to white men. Every single one of those strong Black female leaders in the Democratic Party are 100% married to white men. So it's just weird that she's going to single out Byron. And to be honest, there's very few Black conservative females. So Byron didn't have a lot of selection, as Black men who are traditional don't have a lot of selection.
Byron met his wife in college. He met her at Florida State University, and Florida State University is predominantly white. So in all fairness to Byron, that was his surroundings. Gray, what's your thoughts? I know you're a Democrat. We about to have this race, Governor Byron Donalds, pretty soon. But should she have came so hard at him?
First off, I'm offended at the accent you used earlier. I should do a Jamaican accent and put some dreads on and say "Bumba Clot" and start smoking some marijuana. That's what I should do.
I think you should. Can we record it?
I think the part that we're missing is that, and I know like this is the most Black Republicans that I've hung out with, but it's not normal. So like people are gonna say, okay, if this person's a Black Republican, then they're aligning with racism. So like, of course, Black women that are Democrats, they can date outside of their race because they're aligning with what America's trying to do, the utopia of races and cultures. But if you're a Republican, to me, I would think that you would most likely be with a white woman. So I don't know why they would think that Byron Donalds would be with a Black chick. But the Jim Crow thing that he said was crazy. I mean, like,
yeah, we're gonna play it. We'll play it. Yeah, because he did say some crazy thing. And Gray and me, we went in, and at first I defended Byron, and then I'm like, wait a minute, he said that. Like, I couldn't defend it. I'm sorry, but yeah, what's your question?
Never defend till you get all the facts.
It was crazy what he said, bro. I can't defend that.
Skeptic, your turn.
Skeptic, what's your thoughts?
So yeah, I was gonna mention what Byron Donald had said, and I also wanted to mention from where I think that he gathered this information, because I hear a lot of people quote. It is called actually wrote down the Monahan report, and this report was released in 1960s. And in the 1960s, they did a study of the Black family, and this is where they released statistics. But it's important to note, though, that Black marriage was not legal in America until the 1866. And so this was only 90 something years after Black marriage was even legalized in America. And so when you talk about case studies, when we do, when we are looking at research, we tend to neutralize the two parties that we're trying to compare. So to compare the percentage of Black marriages in America 94 years after it even became legal, it's called the Act of Congress of July 25th, 1866, where the American government actually said that anybody, regardless of their color, is legal, legitimate. They have a legitimate union under our government. And so we have to also address racism in America in order to start talking about the Black family, because racism played a big role after slavery was abolished. Also, I think that he correlated two things that I don't think are, there's a saying that says correlation does not equal causation, right? So when we talk about Jim Crow and we say that the Black family was stronger then, I don't know if he's trying to correlate whether the disenfranchisement of the Black community equals higher percentages of marriages. I was confused by what exactly was his conclusion of this.
His correlation is the fact that when they started having Section 8 and things like that come into the homes, Black fathers were taken from the homes. That's the correlation, that the standard that I'm 90% sure he's comparing it to. And that's why he's saying around 1960s, that's what was going on at that point, was the handouts that were given by the government controlling your households.
Again, when we and I see what you're saying. So when we look back at the case study that he's looking at, that was released, and I want to say it was the 1960s. At that point where we're looking at that particular study, number one, we have to take into consideration the mentality of the person that is doing the research, and also how long
True.
that community has been allowed to marry, and the issues that they have been brought through. Like if we take the black men and how they were treated during slavery, they were treated as if whoever had the best genes, we are going to impregnate the majority of women with those genes. And so you create this sense of you don't have two neutral parties that you're comparing. We're not comparing apples and apples, is what I'm saying. And another thing that I was like, okay, let's concede the fact that, okay, fine, the under Jim Crow, the black family was more together. Are we then going to say that we need to take away civil liberties in the black community to then raise marriage percentages? Because when we look at marriage percentages in all demographics, we see a decrease in marriage, period. So there's a bunch of different things that I was like, when I heard Byron say what he said, I was in shock. I hear a lot of, I'm Mexican, I'm first generation American. And so I hear a lot of people say things that I'm like, I don't think that you understand the whole facts of what you're talking about. And then the validity of a certain research, especially back in the days when we're talking 1960s, 1950s, you have to take into account the type of structure that America had at that time. And I'm not saying that study isn't valid, but I'm just saying, looking at the whole, understanding of the black community in that time, you can then make a conclusion that we are comparing a 94-year-old law that has now even said that black marriage is legal to then the percentages of, mother and father in the black community. And then again, I go into my whole cycle about it, but I will say something. I'm in an interracial relationship, and I will say, for what Jasmine Crockett was saying, we have two different cultures that have come together. I am Latin, and my community expects my husband to learn Spanish, to know about my history, for my children to know about, the background of my ancestors. And I think that the same should be said for somebody who is in any culture. My daughter has to learn about the black community because she will have to know the statistics of her safety when she is with her cousins who are darker skinned than her. It is just a reality that we live in America, and the black community is not treated fairly. 2.5% of black Americans are unalived by police officers. So I kind of see what she was talking about when she was saying, like, he's not taking all stats into consideration. And sometimes you can become part of a different culture and forget the reality that, America isn't equal to this culture compared to this culture, or this demographic of people. Like we were saying, towards black women, we judge black women in a certain way when black women are the most educated demographic in America. But we're sitting there waiting to say, oh, they're aggressive. Oh, she is aggressive because she's a black woman. So I digress on my point, but yeah.
Skeptic, you were really passionate about this.
I am.
Yeah, Skeptic. I wish I could have had you on a few other calls where I had to defend that position. But anyways.
Hold on. Is she married, Enzo? Enzo's supposed to know she was married. Is she married?
Who married?
Oh, yeah, no, she is. I looked it up. She
is
married to Marcus Crockett.
Is it a black guy?
Yeah.
His name's Marcus.
Yeah.
So that is racist. I'm offended. This is the party of the left's tolerance right here. That was really racist. You can't assume that.
My brother's name is Marcus. He's black too.
There's a difference between that and a logical deduction.
That's racist. But I'll say this though.
If it was Alejandro, would I have been racist?
This is going to sound harsh, and I'm sorry who I defend, but I have a feeling a lot of black women will agree. Back in the day, black men stayed with black women before interracial marriage was legal. And I'm sorry, I think that contributes to the degeneration of the black family. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's a factor too you have to take into consideration. And and I'll leave it there. Enzo, what's your thoughts?
Only thing I can really say into it is the professionalism. Like Jay said, all that really went out the window, I would say, in 2016 with Trump. Even though some of his comments are funny sometimes, it's not needed at all. So I would like better professionalism from everybody. Like her comment about Governor Abbott calling him Hot Wheels. I thought that was pretty all right,
that was classless.
funny.
It was classless.
It was funny, but it was insensitive.
It was funny,
completely.
but it was classless.
And the fact like how Nora came up here and with the accent and everything like that, talking like
Yeah,
she's
see,
from the
I would never
ghetto and
black
everything
accent.
like that. We're talking about the same woman who got gifted a boat for her 18th birthday. What struggle did you come from?
So I grew up in the hood, so I can use that accent. I mean, I'm not saying I can, but come on now. Like, I have more entitlement to that than her at this point. Like, she's a fraud. She's a phony.
Hey, if
She's a
Drake can't, you
faker.
can't. Okay.
Yeah.
She's a fraud.
No, it's a
But
little
in all
stupid.
fairness,
I'm
I do want to
Jamaican
say,
American.
Trump started the whole name calling thing when he was calling
absolutely.
Ted Cruz the liar or whatever, and then he called Pocahontas, the lady that said that she had Native American or indigenous blood
Okay,
in her.
she is
So
Pocahontas.
I do
though.
think
I'd
that.
call her
Wait, I
Pocahontas.
thought that was against Nancy Pelosi. Though.
But I'm saying like
No, it was
forward.
No.
He moved
It
that
was
forward
Warren.
for it to be okay to name call.
Oh no, absolutely. I call that out.
Politicians.
I'm calling that out 100%. He shouldn't be doing it either, and I'm very critical about him doing it.
He did call it
Even
out
though it's funny, I'm
immediately.
still going to call it out.
I don't agree. I feel like there's a long history of political name calling. It's been going on since the 1800s. I can give examples, but I don't feel like pulling it up. They've been slinging dirt. Trump takes it to another level. I will give y'all that. But people been slinging dirt. They've been doing it since the 1800s. I mean, he just does it to women, and that's a new thing. But men versus men, been slinging dirt. But we're in the 21st century. Women can do what men do, so they can take this heat like men do. Sorry.
I mean, so do we feel like the reason that Jasmine, why a lot of people find her negative is because there's a lack of authenticity with her, because we know she grew up rich, we know she went to private school, we know she didn't come from a hard life, we know the Black Sun isn't quite, I mean, that's not where she grew up. She grew up in a very good zip code. She grew up with two loving pastor parents. I mean, she literally went to an all-girls private school. So do we feel that the reason that the internet is like going so hard is because there is very clearly a lack of authenticity? You can't present yourself to be somebody from struggle, but yet your parents have made six figures. You've been driving a name brand car. I mean, you don't have student loans. You don't have anything.
So is she getting that judgment because
of her
she's
accent?
black? Because Trump life sounds exactly the same.
And
Trump
people
sounds like
drag
he's from.
him all the time. So
Trump
I mean,
sounds like
I
he's
guess
from New York.
He don't talk in no country accent or no
He has a
poor
New York
accent.
accent.
He sounds like a rich New Yorker. Yeah, but he sounds like who he is. He don't act like he's always wearing a suit. He not trying to be a man of the people in the sense
same
of
suit.
dressing down.
it might be the same suit, Jay. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, possibly the same diaper too, but yeah, nonetheless. I mean,
like
I
the
can
last
say it,
rap
but
battle in 8 Mile when Eminem called out what's his name?
Papa
what the
Doc.
fuck is it? Papa Doc. Yeah, you guys. This guy's a gangster.
I know
His real name's
something
Clarence.
about you. You went to Cranbrook. That's a private school.
Exactly. That's what I keep thinking every time I think of her. Every time.
oh Lord.